Hey guys, welcome to CSN Live. Gary from Clemson Sports News, Trevor from CUTigers.com. We're here after the bye week to discuss, we'll review a little bit about BC. We'll talk about some injuries. We'll talk about the upcoming game Friday night at the Carrier, which should be the Carrier Dome, and it's not that anymore. It's the Dome.
I still call it the Carrier Dome.
Me too. I can't stop calling it. It's the Carrier Dome. In Syracuse, and the Tigers are walking up into what could be a trap, folks. We don't know. That's a really strange football team up there. Me and Trevor were on another show earlier with another Syracuse analyst talking about that game. But let's start off with the recap of BC. Trevor, go ahead.
Well, it was another nail biter. We're getting used to those this season. I mean, that's 4 out of the first 5 games.
I've lost my nails.
4 out of the first 5 games.
Manicure, please.
that have done one score. So I know all the whole Clemson fan base is getting tired of those nerve-wracking thrillers. They're getting pretty stressful there, but. Man, it's just kind of the same that we've seen all season with the offense getting in its own way. They're a little bit better. I mean, they over 400 yards of offense. It's their second best offensive game.
The running game opened up a little bit.
Second best offensive game behind the SC State game. So we saw some good, but it was a lot of bad still, a lot of mistakes, a lot of the offense.
A lot more injuries, guys. Yeah. We should keep piling up the injuries, even going out of that game. I think we picked a lot. By the end of that game, we lost 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah, but drop balls and penalties. We see that 1st and 30. I mean, that's ridiculous, especially at home in the 5th game of the season. But the defense, I mean, what can you say about that? It's, again, just
the walking wounded, but they're performing.
They saved the day. They answered the bell again, just like we've seen time and time again from that unit. Really, the only exception in recent memory was the NC State game when they didn't get that stop that they had to have, and that was only because they were on the field for 40 out of the 60 minutes in regulation and completely gassed. Played 100 plays. We were talking about that earlier with Chris. Bale Inspector played 96 plays in that game. Unbelievable. They had injuries. They had Brian Brzee out. They had Skowski out. We know how important Skowski is to that defense in that game. So that was really the only anomaly. But every other game when the defense is needed, they step up time and time again, even multiple times. I mean, the offense goes 3 and out with 2 minutes left and forces the defense out there to get yet another stop.
I remember that. Yeah.
They come up with it. KJ Henry comes up with the big fumble recovery, and kudos to the crowd. I think giving assist to the crowd there in Death Valley.
A great crowd. I thought that place was jazzed up at pregame. I tweeted it out. I was like, guys, this place is jacked up.
Yeah.
It's a night game, so they had a few drinks in them, but the student section showed up early.
And with the game on the line and that fumble on 2nd down, I mean, you have to give a nod to the crowd on that. You have to think they affected.
I tell you, that you go back to that defensive performance stuff. There's a couple guys I'm really starting to get impressed with, and there's a couple safeties who got the new guys.
Makuba's been great,
and the other kid from Texas, Meekins.
Meekins had the interception.
Yeah, those 2 guys are absolutely doing a great job at that safety position. I'm literally watching them solidify the center of that field. They're not scared to hit the guy on the run. But here's the thing: that game, there was one guy I was worried about. Flowers, and they had him locked down.
Yeah,
that kid gets past everybody.
So that last drive, they had him completely shut out for 3.5 quarters, and then that last drive, all of a sudden, he was all over the place.
Yeah, but I mean, usually in the game, he's all over the place during the whole game, scoring all over. Yeah,
exactly.
And they shut the running back. That running back didn't get anything.
Yeah.
They were able to escape a few times, on some scramble plays and get outside the perimeter, but there was no run game. Clemson shut them down. They did. It was just weird. The last drive of the game was the anomaly. As far as I'm concerned, when BC went down and scored, and that was just them in desperation, pulling out all of their little gadget plays and getting them in one drive and striking gold. And you found the guys on their heels a little bit. But the offense, you saw something last week. I think DJ running the football last week showed us that he's got a little bit of more of a commitment to the run now, and when he does that, it opens up the other running backs because the last 4 games prior to that, the defense it's almost like they knew he wasn't going to run, and the ends were just pinning their ears back and just shooting right for the running backs. Yeah. And DJ never pulled the ball against Georgia. He could have pulled the ball 10 times and ran for 35, 40 yards.
Yeah,
it was the same thing's going on all season.
Doing that
now he's doing it, and what did it do? It opened up that, and also opened up the intermediate passing game. All of his completions last week were in the intermediate passing game. Not short, but intermediate stuff.
Yep.
And some really great corner routes to Ngata. He threw a couple really sick balls. But then again, a couple question marks popped up. A couple, head scratchers,
He had some bad misses, but you talk about the throws to Ngata. I mean, he made that perfect throw on the goal line there in the 4th quarter. I mean,
dropped.
Yeah, unbelievable outside shoulder throw, and then got it drops it. And got it made some great plays in the game, but at the crucial times, like we said, it's like one guy steps up and the other guy drops the ball, and vice versa.
And the penalties on top of that. It's just not a Clemson team we're used to.
Yeah, but then Gotta makes that catch in the goal line. It's a 2-score game. You don't even have to worry. I mean, the game's over. So it's just little things like that.
I think they haven't put a game together yet. The defense is, like you said, the defense is bailing them out over and over. The offense has yet to put a complete game together where they have both sides of the offense working, passing, and rushing.
Complementary football.
50-50, you haven't seen it. And Clemson lived at the 50-50, even when they had Travis Etienne getting 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
You lived it, because what it does, it gives you that balance and it keeps the defense guessing.
Yeah.
When you start sliding one way or the other, that percentage is one way or the other, they're going to go there too. And that's what happens. You see defensive ends just line. The defensive ends, if you notice, guys, watch Clemson's formation. They're lining up 2-3 yards outside of the tackle and just rushing in at angles to go right for the mesh. They're going right for the mesh. They're not even worried about DJ pulling it. If he does pull, he's got 50 yards to run. He's got green grass everywhere. And when DJ did run it last week, was it first and 3rd and 15 or something like that? He ran it and got the first down.
Yeah,
great run.
Yeah,
a lot of effort. He ran with effort and purpose, and you saw him get all fired up and get the crowd fired up.
Yeah,
that is what we wanted to see from DJ.
I think that was a Georgia Tech game, but yeah, that's.
No, he did it last week.
Was
too.
it BC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He
had a big run on that 1st and 30. He had a big run, but
yeah.
then they weren't able to convert because they, of course, had a penalty, a false start or something knocked him back. But yeah, like you said, he's running the ball with vigor and passion now and conviction,
yeah.
Exactly. And
a conviction is the point. Having put their foot down and go.
Yeah. And the bright side, to them, coming up short in the red zone as many times as they did is and not being able to put the game away. VT Potter,
he's solid.
I mean, he's like Dabo said, he's been on ice all season. But really weird. Only 2 attempts coming into that game all season in 4 games, and then he goes 4 for 4.
What is it about BC and Clemson field goals? And you go back to the game with all
Richard
the rain.
Jackson, 2009.
Yeah, all the rain. It's like BC and Clemson field goals. It's just a weird thing.
Richard Jackson wore a leather helmet that day. I think
he wore his leather off. He wore the leather off the toe.
6 field goals in that game.
He wore the leather off the toe of his shoe. Okay.
Yep.
So let's go over that. Let's talk about Trevor. Before we move up to the injury update, you got a little fun fact you want to toss out to everybody?
Yeah, just a little quickie this week. Not going to be as long as some of the other history lessons that I've thrown at you, but. Clemson all-time, or not all-time, but Clemson in the playoff era since 2014, 27-1. The only exception was the game at Syracuse in 2017.
Kelly Bryant.
Kelly Bryant, the famous, when Kelly Bryant was injured, and also Greg Hugel was injured, and Austin Spence, the backup, missed. 2 very makeable field goals, and they lose by 3 points. So that was the one loss. So in these unranked games on the road. So if Clemson can keep DJ on his feet, then that bodes well for the Tigers in this one.
I with the injury update, we'll go ahead and move into that. One guy I want to talk about is Will Shipley. Shipley. It's he went down the other week. I couldn't tell really where the injury was, ankle or knee. It seemed to be a bruised knee, I think, as well, all it turned out to be. But it looks like he came to Dabo this week and was lobbying to play this week. And that's just not happening.
I don't think we'll see him. But speaking of that, Pace was obviously great against BC. Had 125 rushing yards. And Maffa was outstanding as well. So both those guys, both in running and in the passing game, they did well with their protections. So I'm very encouraged by those two. But definitely be without Shipley for at least.
Who was kind of odd, Trevor, is even with the luxury of the depth we had in the past, we saw a lot of Darian Rencher in the last few years. We haven't seen him out there as much this year. Dabo was always like to get him out there.
That's always been in mop-up duty, though, when they've had a four-score lead.
We'll go there. But when you get the depth down that low, and a guy's been around for 4 or 5 years, you trust him with the plays, you trust him with the blitz calls and things like that. But Maffa went in and really did some good work. Again, I saw both running backs missing on a couple of blitzes, but hey, that can be expected being as young as they are. They just got to learn where to slide into those gaps. And read those offensive linemen when they make the calls.
How about that spin move by Maffa? Nimble kid for 225 pounds.
Did you see the tweet that Clemson football put out earlier in the week was Maffa doing himself on the video game.
His circle button. Exactly.
It's pretty good. But
the other big injury, of course, Will Taylor, after the season, another torn ACL.
And just when they then just that game, they decided to put him in the slot.
Exactly.
Just like we always want to play like
first
3
quarter
plays.
goes out.
Yep.
So it's been that kind of season for the Tigers across the board. I mean, it started out with all the injuries on defense. I think I read in the game notes for this week, they've had 17 players from the depth chart, like contributors, like not starters. We're talking starters, second team guys have been out at one point or another of the season with either injuries or being ejected for targeting or Lynn J. Dixon transferring, what have you. I mean, 17. That's insane. I mean, most programs, that happens. You're looking at like a winless season or maybe 1 or 2 wins. But somehow the Tigers are just 2 plays literally away from being 5-0.
Yeah. And before we move on past injuries, let's talk about something about what we talk about. Most teams will be able to overcome that. The depth that comes allows them to overcome that stuff.
Yeah.
But there's the thing about the polls, guys. I mean, Trevor have an issue with the polls, and a lot of people do. A team like Alabama can go into an unranked Texas A&M and lose, and they drop 4 spots.
Yeah, and I was shocked to hear Skowski talk about that. You hear him on Monday. I mean,
It bothers those guys.
They never talked about the polls like
They've
that.
never been out of the top 10.
That's true. Skowski hasn't. I mean, Skowski's been he's a 6-year super senior, and he's literally never been outside of the top 10, let alone the top 25.
And I got this reason.
He was passionate about it. I mean, you could tell he was angry, and they felt disrespected. So I thought that was great. I mean, Dad was always trained those guys well, not to say the polls are meaningless, yada yada. But I thought
him and Matt Bockhorst let stuff out.
Yeah, I thought the fact that Skowski was venting about that a little bit lets you know he has his finger on the pulse of the entire team.
Yeah.
And I think we know that all those guys feel disrespected.
And we'll go back,
they should be. They are disrespected.
Let's go back to the injuries real quick. And Skowski, that shoulder is just it's recurring every week now. It's to the point now where he's worth about a half. Yeah. He's either going to get the targeting call or his shoulder's going to go out. Yeah. And they got to find a way to either keep him on the field for his knowledge and his ability to put people in the right places. Yeah. That's just as important as his ability to blitz the gap.
Huge.
But they got to find another guy to step in that spot and quick. Because, I mean, he is a big part of that defense, especially he's the brains of that defense. He's the quarterback of that defense. But it's just seeing him leave the field so much. Yeah. And when you look at Clemson losses over the last 3 years, you can attach James Skowski to every one of them, either being out in the first half or targeting or something. Every time he leaves the game, Clemson loses.
Notre Dame game, the LSU game, the Ohio State game, all of them. I mean, that shows you how valuable that guy is in that middle of the D. I mean, he's another coach on the field, literally.
And you can't even block him. Yeah. He's like a lightning bug getting in between. And yes, he knows exactly times his blitz is right.
And if he's not getting to the quarterback, he's getting his hand up and he's deflecting a pass.
Oh, he's changing the passing lane. Yeah. He's forcing him out of his comfort zone in the passing lane. But let's move on. Let's go ahead and talk about this week's game.
And when he did come out against NC State, we saw you mentioned sticking somebody else in there. We saw Bentley. In the past, we've seen him fill in for Spector at will, but he actually played Mike most of that game and did a good job. But he's no Skowski.
He's no Skowski. He's a little bit step slower, I think, but he's a tough-nosed guy, great tackler. You've talked about in the past. He's one of my favorite kids in that class when it came out. He was so underrated. I thought everybody he was a 4-star, but he should have been a 5-star guy coming out. He was an amazing backer. But
those defensive tackles, we see Capehart into the game maybe this week.
I don't think he's going to get in.
You don't think he's going to get in?
Not in a weird. By the way, DeMonte Capehart came off the injured list and practiced all week for the first time this year. So that he scoped his knee earlier in the year, and right the first week of practice, first week of season practice, all camp. So coming in that first week, the knowledge he's going to have to get in the shape, the game shape, and Dabo's big about being in game condition and knowledge. I think they might toss him in late in the game if they've got a lead, let him get some snaps. I will see him being a big part of this defense this week, maybe next.
They've really ridden Trey Williams and Rook though in the middle. I mean,
and Trey's walking around with his shoulder just popping in and out.
I mean, Peyton Page and E.T. have gotten in there, sprinkled in a little bit.
E.T.'s been very impressive in his time in there. He presses the pocket very well.
They've gotten some snaps, but I mean, they've really ridden the Trey and Rook, I think, at D tackle. So I'm hoping to get those guys a little bit of a reprieve at some point with some of the.
Well, Malcolm Green's another guy that didn't play much last week. I didn't play all last week.
Yeah.
And to me, Malcolm is one of the best little players that the defensive backfield has.
Absolutely.
He's tough-nosed kid, and that's kind of why he's in the position he's in, because he's not afraid to stick his head in there and hit somebody. And then again, the shoulders. Remember about 5 years ago or 7 years ago, it was the shoes that caused all the broke feet. Clemson had broken toes, broken scapula. their feet, they couldn't stay. This year is all shoulders.
Yep.
Everybody's got shoulder injuries.
Yep, Bo Collins had a shoulder in camp.
Everybody's wearing shoulder braces.
Brian Brzee had a shoulder. Scalzi,
Trey Williams.
Yep, Stingers. All over the place.
Nolan Turner. It's just
on and on.
It's shoulder injury. So
Sanders.
Sanders, shoulder injury. By the way, there's a orthopedic shoulder specialist in the country. Set up shop next to Clemson, you'll make a killing.
Or at least sponsor our show.
Yeah, there you go. We can use it. All right,
we talk shoulders here.
We'll talk. We'll even rub your shoulder for the sponsorship, but no. Let's go. Let's move on to talk about this game coming up this week. Going up to Syracuse, me and Trevor, we sat next to each other a couple times up there. It's a strange place, people. It is a strange place. It's a building with no air conditioning, sponsored by an air conditioning company. Okay, so you imagine that. It's called the Carrier Dome.
The ultimate misnomer.
And there's no air conditioning in it. So it's hot, even on cold days. It's hot.
I've heard they've modified that though this year. I think they're actually pumping some AC in there.
Yeah, well, whatever.
But yeah, I actually played. I might have told you the story, but I played basketball in there. Yeah. When I was in high school, I played high school basketball, and our team took in the summer we attended Jim Boeheim's summer basketball camp.
Oh, that was a pleasure. He was a nice guy, huh?
Yeah, 2 years in a row. He was a figurehead. He was basically just a name only type of guy. I mean, he had all his assistants run the camp, and he made like one speech every week. And that was about it. But it was a great time, and we actually won the champ. They had a tournament. You had high schools from all over the East Coast attend, and they had a tournament at the end of the week.
Had to be weird shooting from a high school gym and shooting that place.
That was the thing, man. I'm telling you, like the first 2 days, I was airballing everything. Because your depth perception is totally off. I mean, you feel like you're outside, but you're in a gym. And so, it's not like your usual little high school gym you're accustomed to. So that's the biggest thing is depth perception. And it affects football players. It does on punt returns and on long pass plays when you're trying to find the ball. I mean, it definitely messes.
Finding the ball.
If you're not used to it.
Up against that ceiling is really hard
to do. It messes with your depth perception. So, but this is obviously first, Tigers still looking for their first true road win of the season. And like you said earlier, just the third road start for DJ in his career. So, in Syracuse, man, they might not have a great record at 3-3, but they're close. I mean, they've been close. They lost on a last-second field goal at Florida State.
Lost second field goal against Wake.
And then Wake Forest, they go to overtime and led the entire game. I mean, literally. I mean, I think there were like 5 minutes they didn't lead in that game, and they were up by a couple scores. They're
starting to gel. And that quarterback is starting to put things together. Yeah,
and that Schrader is good. That guy can run. I'm telling you, I can't remember.
Who was the guy a few years ago they won with? The guy, I can't remember his name now, number 8.
Before DeVito?
Yeah, the guy that they won with for 2 years in a row. They beat us up in they came in here and they lost 27-24.
Yeah, I can't remember his name off the top of my head either.
Because he was the same guy.
You think?
Yeah,
this guy's
bigger. He's bigger. This guy could run and throw.
Yeah. No, I remember. Yeah, he's the guy that that 2017 game, right? Mm-hmm. And they couldn't stop him. I mean, they got that tempo going. But that's the thing that Dino's not going with the usual tempo that we're used to. We're used to
Dungy.
Dungy, good call.
Yeah.
We're not. You're used to Dino going, 85, 90 plays a game, super fast-paced, high-tempo offense. They're not doing that this year. They're running about 60, 65 plays a game, slower tempo, a lot more run than we're accustomed to from his offense.
And Dino was on a hot seat more so than anybody in the country this year. That fan base had lost their patience with him going back 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and that last year's COVID season was really bad for those guys.
Yeah, but that Sean Tucker, that running back 34, he may be the best running back in the ACC. I mean, he's legit. Kind of reminds me of Darren Sproles a little bit. He's kind of diminutive, but slippery as hell. Like low center of gravity, really good balance, equilibrium. He's the type of guy he bounces off you. You have to wrap him up.
I think defensive tackles getting penetration on their run plays is going to be huge. They're going to have to force him back into the middle and not let him get outside the tackles. I mean, you're going to have to get penetration up. Take those drives and get driving straight back and make him force him into the gap, and let the linebackers come clean it up. Because that way you don't have to have Skowski there. You can have anybody in there come clean up that linebacker position.
And Schrader, the way he's running, 30 carries last week against Wake for
30 carries for a
180 yards and a touchdown for a quarterback.
That's 6 yards a pop.
I mean, you don't expect that from a guy like
this isn't Jamel Holloway.
Yeah, it's not Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
I mean, he's not the quick twitch type of guy that but he is fast and athletic, especially given his size. I mean, because you look at he's pretty much DJ's size, but he's a lot faster and shiftier than DJ as a runner. So he can make guys miss in the open field, and he can run over you or run through you. So he's a challenge, man. It's been a while since Clemson's faced a quarterback that I think has been as much of a concern as this guy. So you have to have a spy on him at all times.
I think Jordan Travis would be a guy I would over at Florida State that I can compare to him as far as size and running ability.
He's not as big either, though. He's kind of a smaller. I mean,
Travis is about 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, but this kid's like 6'4", 6'5", 225 pounds.
And runs like a deer.
Yeah,
and if you notice his gallop, he's got a weird stride, folks.
And he wasn't even the starter. He transferred from Mississippi State. He wasn't the starter to begin the season. Tommy DeVito was.
Well, DeVito's been beat up a lot. That kid's probably he's probably punch struck from the concussions. Yeah. He's had quite a few concussions.
Yeah.
So
but Schrader, I wonder about their passing game, because I don't think they have like a real alpha in the passing game like that. They had Nykeem Johnson last year. He transferred out.
And they've had a couple guys in the last few years that are NFL guys.
Exactly.
Guys that go-to receivers. They don't have a go-to guy.
No.
Yeah, they don't have that guy. I agree with you, but that's what allows Clemson to do one thing. I think Clemson loads up on the blocks.
Absolutely.
I think the safeties come in. You'll see Makuba crashing in. You'll see some big safeties in the game, and Turner will probably be one of the guys blitzing. That was pretty cool last week to see Noel Turner in a couple blitzes.
Yeah.
He got through pretty well.
He's always been good in those safety blitzes, and of course he came up with a big interception too in that game. So Tigers positive in the turnover margin against BC. So
what is turnover margin for Clemson this year so far?
It's a good question, but if I had to guess, I'd say minus or about even. But yeah, that's something that in the past under Dabo that they've won in spite of the turnover margin, which would surprise a lot of people. If you look at the history of the Tigers over in this playoff run over the last 6 years, for the most part, they've been either minus in the turnover margin or not one of the better teams in the country. So that's always kind of been an Achilles heel. They've been able to win in spite of the turnover margin, not because of it, like a team like Iowa, which is just unbelievable. I mean, I think they have like 16 interceptions already.
What's like a +2 for the season?
+2, yeah. I figure it was right around there.
And look at Wake leads the league at +8, folks.
Yeah, exactly. So
there's a team who's taking the ball away right there.
Yeah, and that's what they have to do to win games, and they've won some close games. I mean, Louisville, and we'll talk about that a little later in our ACC segment. But yeah, they've the obviously aforementioned Syracuse overtime game and the Louisville game. So Wake Forest is one of those teams that they're not going to blow you out, but they're just really well coached.
I think that he's a great candidate for that Stanford job when he opens up at the end of the year, because I think there's going to happen.
You think it's going to be David Shaw's gone?
I think David Shaw's gone.
They've turned things around a little bit with the big upset win over Oregon, but yeah, you think he's?
I think he's gone. The win over Oregon and the way they played against Southern Cal might have helped him out this year.
Yeah.
But he was really on the hot seat, and the recruiting out there has gotten really bad for some reason. And I think Wake's coach is a great guy.
Yeah.
I think he's a great candidate for that position, and he can recruit out there in the academic standards they're going to have.
He's going to get some big offers, that's for sure. I mean, Clawson's we've always respected that guy. I mean, he's won everywhere he's been.
He's a straight up guy. I like him a lot.
And what's crazy is talking about these coaches is. I actually read in the game notes that Dabo is tied for 4th in most games coached in the ACC all time.
Yeah.
All time.
Yeah.
How crazy is that to think about?
13 years old.
Yeah.
13 years today.
But it still seems like he's a new kid.
13 years today, Dabo Swinney got the job.
Yeah, but doesn't it still seem like he's a new kid on the block a little bit? I mean, it doesn't seem like he's...
He doesn't seem like 13
Bobby
years.
Bowden,
He doesn't seem like he's 13 years old. And in 13 years in the ACC, Bobby Bowden had won 13 ACC championships in a row. So he's not quite Bowden yet. But let's go ahead and move over to the offensive game plan for this game. Again, no Shipley. We got DJ is improving, guys, and there's a lot of things in play. I think you're gonna see this week some things happen. I think they're gonna walk out with a script this first drive.
Sure.
I think they want to score fast. I think I'm going to score fast and go fast.
They got to take some shots down the field because if it's going to happen at all, we were talking about this earlier. It's got to be this game. I mean, if they don't do it in this game, I don't know when it's going to happen.
Syracuse lost 3 out of the 4 defensive backs. 3 all went to the NFL. Trevor says last week they were throwing the ball all over the place.
All over the place. I mean, and granted, it's Sam Hartman, and he's a seasoned guy, and he's more accurate than DJ has been this season. But still, some of those throws downfield were just up for grab. 50-50 balls. He lets the receivers go out and make a play, and that's what Clemson's got to do. Clemson's got the receivers to do that, and DJ's got the arm certainly to do that. And so they just need to take some shots. Maybe even if you don't get a catch, maybe get a PI. Wake got a couple big PI calls in that game. They set up touchdowns. So I
think right now the offense is starting to come back together, but you still have a couple issues with the gelling of that offensive line. Now I think moving Bockhorst to guard last week was the best move of the season so far.
And Dabo said he was extremely pleased with Hunter Rayburn at center.
Yeah. And if you recall,
he had one bad snap, but outside of that, he was.
He was my candidate for starting center when we got here this year, and we still haven't seen a Lincoln kid play at all.
Right,
the freshman. I guess they're not going to take the red shirt off him because I sure would like to see what that kid could do.
Yeah.
Coming in with all the accolades and the size he's carrying.
He's a big kid, for sure. Yeah. The offense has to take some shots. I think. Got to keep them honest. I think the running game that you opened up last week is going to open up a lot of eyes. Yeah.
Those 2 big backs with speed.
Yep.
You got 2 big backs that can really put a foot down and go. When Pace got outside tackle on that one play to score the touchdown, gosh, it's like a shot of a cannon.
Yeah. And DJ, running the ball more effectively now is going to.
It's opening up a lot more passing lanes. Let me tell you something. When you're able to run the ball and you make those safeties stand in their freaking spots and not rush it, and if your defensive ends aren't crashing, your safeties aren't crashing, you'll find that green grass.
Yeah,
you'll find stuff, one-on-one stuff. You'll find the green grass where the linebacker can't cover somebody. You slip back out. You're going to find the green patches, and that's where you throw the football to. Yep. You throw it to the green patches. But when they're coming up and they're putting 3-3-5 on you, and they're putting blanket cloud coverage on you, and there's no grass to go to, then you're in a zone, you're screwed.
Yeah.
If you ain't got a running back, that's what you're going to get. And that's what happened all so far this year.
Special teams, Gary. I've been excited to talk about this all week.
It's the first time we're going to face a bad punter?
First time ever. Because, man, I tell you,
we faced Ray Guy has been reinvented and re-released into college football 25 times over. Me and Trevor.
This has been a consistent talking point for us
for
years.
We play against the best punters and they have the best games ever.
ACC, not ACC, doesn't matter. It's always one of the best punters in the nation that they're facing.
Remember a few years ago, Syracuse walked in with the punter and a kicker, All-Americans?
Now they still have the kicker, who's the all-time record holder. It seems like every week it's the all-time record holder.
He's been there for 8 years.
NC State's, ironically, he missed 2 big field goals in that game, but he was an all-time record holder at NC State. But yeah, that Schmidt kid seems like he's been there forever, like 10 years. But he's a record holder. But and he made a couple field goals last week. But so he's legit. But that punter, man, he had some shanks last week against Wake. Now I say that, and I'll probably jinx
he'll come out 65 yards.
Exactly. He'll have the game of his life, and he'll play like Ray Guy against the Tigers this week. But at least from what we've seen, he's not the All-American type punter that we've seen in the past. But and on the Clemson side, I think special teams has been pretty solid. Coverage has been solid. They had that one blocked punt, which was on Sage Ennis because he had to come in for Davis Allen, who was ejected in the first quarter for targeting.
Yep. And he also Brian Brazil. His slot in that little 3-man formation was also being taken over by Rook Aurora.
Yeah. So that guy just came right through the middle on that punt.
That's from both of those guys. Yes.
Yeah.
And both of those guys were fresh. They just walked in there and picked up a position they weren't used to.
Yeah. But obviously Potter going 4 for 4. That was huge for his confidence going on the road, especially in that Carrier Dome, and in case they need him this week.
Won't be any wind. So.
And they'll have Ross back in punt return. People forget that he was out the entire second half last week. Mm-hmm. So that was another reason.
Concussion protocol.
Yeah, right.
They thought
took a shot to the head, and so did Galloway.
Yeah.
So I mean, they had a lot of guys out in that game.
I think I counted 7. I think 7 guys that game went out.
It's been a perfect storm, man, of just like inconsistency on the offense, mistakes, and injuries. Like all of that
and penalties.
That's what I'm saying. All that's
so
in a big stew, a big cauldron.
That's just so out of their norm to be penalized, to be inconsistent, and to be sometimes not focused.
Yeah.
I've seen a lack of focus. On a couple. The lack of focus, I will tell you. Drop footballs.
Yep.
That's lack of focus. Okay, quarterbacks that don't get the ball out fast enough and get sacked.
Kobe Pace false starting in the backfield.
Yes, you don't do that.
That's just a layup. I mean, that's just you don't do it. I mean, so. having all those guys back this week hopefully will help, and knock on wood, special teams will continue their solid play, and we'll see if Ross can maybe put together.
Well, here's the thing. Even with the offense as it's going, we're seeing a team that's averaging 19 points a game, something like that, around 117th in overall in offense. That's unheard of in this state. Right now, Coastal Carolina is the best team in the state offensively. We're behind South Carolina, guys. Okay.
Crazy to think about.
It's crazy to think about. But this week, I think this is the week that they can put it together. I think they rally around this week. I think the bye week was something they needed. I think that the coaches got into them in film and said, look, let's go self-scout ourselves, because that's something they haven't had a chance to do.
I'm not making those statements anymore because you recall I said that before the NC State game.
I think the bye week gives them
I
that
predicted they would score 38 in that game, and I was way off.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there. We'll save our prediction.
I hope you're right.
We'll save our prediction for a little bit later, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the ACC Championship and breaking down what the ACC looks like over the next few weeks as we head into. And right now we're just going to talk Atlantic Division tonight. We'll worry about Coastal when we get a little bit further down the road, but let's talk Clemson's road. Let's talk what's going on with Wake and NC State, the three guys that are really challenging for this division.
Yeah, well, obviously a huge game, and we'll do this in our pick'em coming up in our next segment. But NC State goes to Boston College for a night game in Chestnut Hill at Alumni Stadium.
And believe me, it's not a fun place to visit.
Yeah.
If you're a visiting team, I've been there with Trevor. Cold. The people are. They're kind of as cold like the weather, but the stadium is not very inviting. It's rough on a team. It really is.
And that fan base gets riled up. It's not a big
for
stadium.
a couple of quarters.
Yeah, not a big stadium, but if they're in the game and especially a night game, they've had some cocktails in them.
Coldest game I've ever been to is that one.
Some toddy. Oh yeah, 2018.
Yeah, that was
freezing.
Yep.
I think it could be really. And BC is a good team. I mean, Dracovic. Man, if they had Dracovic, I think that BC would probably be favored in this game. But
if they had Dracovic, we might have walked out with lost the other way.
That's a good point too. But even with Grosel, he's a solid backup. He's had like 12 starts under his belt.
I'll be honest with you, he impressed me very much. So that's good. He's solid.
Garwa's a solid.
I mean, they had a lot of noise coming down on them. That stadium was rocking on Saturday, and that BC team they have all started a couple times, but it wasn't a quarterback.
They were 4-0 coming in.
They had a nice hard count going too. They got that offside. How many offsides penalties? That hard count they were doing,
huge.
It was big. And then again, unfocused and disciplined on the defensive side of the ball for Clemson. We'll go back to that word again.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's giving Clemson much respect for beating BC, but BC was a 4-0 team. I mean, and playing with a lot of confidence under Hafley.
We talked to their BC, their alumni guy, and he's like, well, we're excited for 4-0.
Yeah, exactly.
Chance to go 5-0, and you can go 4-0 if you're not Clemson in the ACC or Florida State going 4-0. You're not getting ranked.
Yeah,
you got to go 5-6-0 before you can get in the top 25.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big game
and Wake.
In the ACC, obviously, and Wake. Obviously Clemson needs NC State to lose, preferably 2 games. But I think even if NC State only loses 1 game in the ACC, as long as Clemson beats Wake and then Wake beats NC State at home, they got them at home in Winston-Salem. So 3-way tie, and then you got the head-to-head 3-way tie. So Clemson could get into the ACC championship.
That'd be sliding in. I really want. But
there's a legitimate chance for NC State to lose 2 games.
Yeah, we went over their schedule a few minutes ago, me and Trevor, before the show, and I think that NC State has a chance to lose 2. I think Wake has a chance to lose 1.
Yeah. State has to play at Miami. They got tough back-to-back road games at BC, at Miami. Then they got Louisville at home, and that's not going to be a cakewalk either because Louisville's playing with a lot of momentum and confidence right now with Malik Cunningham at quarterback, and then they've also got a big one at North Carolina. So in their rivalry game. So definitely a good chance that NC State could lose 2. And then with Wake, obviously Clemson just has to take care of business. You got them here in Death Valley in November and just beat them head to head.
And that's happened a couple times. We had to beat Wake a few years ago. It was
2009, I think, was when Dabo clinched the division for the first time.
Yep. And it did it against Wake in the purple uniforms.
Exactly.
Yep. On Military Appreciation Day. Okay, guys. So with that, we're going to go ahead and step into our pick section. It's been a different show, like we're usually at the SO Club. Hi guys, at the SO Club, how you doing? Because of the bye week and the day on the game on Friday, and me and Trevor decided to do it in studio. We'll be back at the SO Club on the 29th for the FSU game. Stay tuned. We got a bunch of special guests will be joining us that night. But let's go ahead and talk picks. And while we're at it, let's talk Florida, the state of Florida, but Florida at LSU. Very surprising to see Florida, a 19-point favorite going into the Bayou, and playing my favorite mushmouth.
Orgeron's having a tough year, boy.
Yep.
All right, so you want me to go first?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that spread too. I think I've been saying it all year, even since preseason. I thought Florida was overrated.
Well, Emory Jones is one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, you and I were both here when he camped at Clemson.
I saw him I went to cover him at the Nike opening.
Right.
It was Trevor against Trevor, sitting next to Trevor and Memory. And it was like watching
night and day.
Night and day. Yeah. Literally night and day.
Yeah,
He couldn't even get an out pat. He couldn't get an out route.
Yeah, couldn't get an offer from Clemson, so he winds up at Florida and now as a starter. I still keep waiting for the other shoe to drop and for them to start that freshman Richardson because he's good. I mean,
he's good. Well, here's the thing: the Jones guy is just able to. Last year, they used him on third down situations a lot, and that's what I saw was a guy that could come in and run the ball.
Right,
he was not
predictable every time he came in.
Yeah.
But they haven't made the switch yet.
I don't see it this weekend. I don't see this game right here is going to be a 3-point game, guys. It's going to be a 3-point game. It's not going to go 19, and LSU has a chance to win this game. The better quarterback happens to be at LSU right now, as far as I'm concerned. But the rest of it, the rest of the team is not. The defensive side of football versus LSU got all some issues right now.
LSU is kind of reeling. They kind of got their backs against the wall, right? I mean,
this is a game they got to win.
It's a noon kickoff. If it were
that fan base will rally, I think.
If it were a night game in Tiger Stadium, then it'd be a nightmare for Florida. But being a noon game, I think that gives Florida a shot. But I still think that LSU is going to rally with their backs against the wall. I think they win it outright.
I pick up LSU outright as well. Okay, all right. Next one, we'll go Texas A&M. Guys, they rallied last week, and me and Trevor have been to College Station. Believe me, the most humid place you can go outside of Houston, Texas, is College Station.
And that stadium moves for real.
It moves for real. We're in the press box. They start doing that sway in the fourth quarter. I looked at Trevor, and the TVs were bouncing. So let's see here.
By the way, that win over Alabama, that was the second largest crowd ever at Kyle Field, and the first largest Clemson. 2018.
Yeah. So and the guys they're going against Mizzou at Mizzou. It's an 11 a.m. local times kickoff. Okay, so. Here's a perfect letdown game, guys. A classic scenario for a letdown game. That team that beat Alabama had a hard time all season so far just being consistent.
Yeah.
They put their best game together. That crowd was behind them. I'm a big fan of Spiller, the running back. And the tight end is amazing.
And A-Chain.
Yeah,
tight end Weidermeyer. I talked in my preview for that 2018 game. He was a true freshman, and that was one of my talking points was how talented he was and how Jimbo likes to use those tight ends.
Yeah.
And, man, sure enough, here we are 3 years later, and he's maybe the best tight end in the country.
With all that being said, in the game last week, which I watched, and again, I'm not a big Jimbo Fisher fan, but to be honest with you guys, the way he handles his quarterbacks is a little weird. He's very aggressive with his quarterbacks, and he expects them to know more than he does at times. He literally challenges them mentally, and I think he should be more of a teacher. And he's not. But this game, if it was at Kyle Field, it's a Texas A&M game all day long.
Yeah.
Mizzou's outmatched, but I think this is a rallying point for this football team. They have themselves have got to rally up and get something going. And their quarterback is not that bad. He's a couple years into the system now. So I'm gonna go with the upset.
You're gonna go out on a limb on this.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say upset. A&M will lose this game at Mizzou early.
You could be right with the hangover effect and let down after, obviously a historic win for Texas A&M. I think that was their third win all time against the number one team. And we could see that. And, you got to wonder about the Mizzou crowd if they're going to show up and, really be in full throat for an 11 o'clock local kickoff. I think for me, the key is Calzada, his health, because he, really kind of gutted out that win on Saturday. I mean, he was limping all over the place, and I don't know if he's going to be 100% for this game. If he is, I like Texas A&M to win, definitely. I think there may be a tendency to let down, but Mizzou is just not a very good football team to me this season. Yeah. They're not as good as they've been in past years.
But this year, I think I've seen more top 25 teams lose to unranked teams than ever.
That's a good point. I mean,
the 6-year seniors
coming
out of COVID.
That's what it is. It's all
that's the I'm looking at right now.
We didn't foresee that.
I'm looking at it right now. And nobody foresaw what we've seen, guys. Again, you just look at the numbers.
We thought last year was going to be weird.
This is weird. This was the anomaly.
This
is the real anomaly.
Even with all the fans back, you've got more road upsets. Yeah. Because of that.
I think the cardboard fans had something to do with it, folks. I tell you.
And that's a big reason Wake is having such a great season. They've got 9 super seniors. They're all starting.
Including Harmon.
Yeah. All right. I think Mizzou squeaks one, or A&M squeaks one out there.
All right, so let's move on. NC State, we just mentioned, and BC. They're playing each other this week. NC State at BC. Is this a night or day game?
Night game.
Night game. Look out, NC State. I'm going to call it right now. BC upsets NC State. I'm just going to say it. We'll stop it right there with me.
I don't want to jinx it because obviously Clemson needs NC State to lose, but I'm with you. I think Boston College. I think you get it.
I think they get him. I love the coach.
Yeah.
I love Halfley, right? I think he's a great coach up there. I mean, a great pick for a coach up there. He's very young and energetic. He's Dabo. He's trying to take that Dabo, all in family feeling, and he's got it growing up there, man. And give that guy a couple 3 years. Watch out, guys, because he's able to recruit. He can recruit.
And NC State had a similar kind of letdown after beating Clemson. I mean, they did not really show up against La Tech. Just kind of eked it out in a close game. But yeah, we'll see if that carries over.
Okay, next one up, guys. The number one team in the country, the University of Georgia Bulldogs. All my dog fans, my friends back in Atlanta, I remember one time. Remember the 30-0 game, the hottest game, that 98.
2003. David Pollock.
Yeah. I show back up. I drive down here from Atlanta to come see the game, and I live next door to a couple of big dog fans. I get home. What's on my garage? A dog flag. As soon as I drive up, I'm like, you see.
My brother-in-law's a Georgia grad, so and my sister, of course, is a Clemson grad. So,
but you gotta give it to them.
But this is the year. This is their year.
This is their year. They're loaded.
If they don't get it done this year,
in another 30 years,
another 41 years, I think it's been.
And UK Stoops is building a really great program, but he just can't find the offense. I mean, what is it about Kentucky since Tim Couch left there? They haven't been able to find a quarterback to throw a forward pass.
No.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And they run the ball. But it's a football team built on the lines.
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah. Well, that's Mark Stoops for you. Yeah. But yeah, this game, Kentucky's been great, and obviously the big win over Florida was a historic win for them. I think the second time in the last 40 years they've beaten Florida, and they've got it rolling. They're undefeated, but. Man, going into Athens and
it's at UK.
This one's at UK?
Yeah.
Are you positive?
Pretty sure, yeah. Double check it real quick, but I am pretty sure.
Let's double check that one. But yeah, even if they're at home for this one, at what's it called, Kroger Field now.
Well, Kroger's located in Cincinnati. Their home office is close there. So, yeah.
But we're looking at a noon kickoff. So even if it's at home there in Lexington, I'm not sure if the crowd's going to be like, it was against LSU or against Florida. And so...
Is it a noon kickoff?
It's a noon kickoff. That much I do know. And so it could be at 3:30.
I think it might be a 3:30 game.
Yeah, I'm dropping the ball on this game for sure. Anyway, regardless, let's say it's in Kentucky. 3:30 kickoff. We'll assume that. I still think, Georgia, I think this is going to be another Georgia blowout. I mean, I think Kentucky's...
There it is. It is a 3:30 kickoff, and it's at UJ. I have it backwards. So it's between the hedges. Right. So that changes my perception of the whole game.
Yeah, 3:30, just like Auburn in Athens.
I'm looking at a 34-10 kind of game. I think they
just like Auburn.
Yeah, I think the same thing you saw against Auburn. You're going to see that offense is going to be inept. They might squeak out a touchdown in the first half and 3 points. Now, if their defense can do something with Georgia, maybe. Georgia still hasn't proven to me that they're as be able to affect you in multiple areas. They can. The run game seems to be their thing right now, and to play action off of it. You don't see them just waking on first down and just chunking it.
Here's the thing: if they do blow Kentucky out like we think they will, that'll be 3 ranked SEC teams to have gotten blown out by Georgia. The team that only scored 3, and by the way, all 3 of those with the backup quarterback Bennett.
Yep.
Whereas Clemson, meanwhile, holds their starter JT Daniels to 3 points.
Yep.
Only loses on a pick 6 at a neutral site in the opener with the Clemson's offensive struggles.
But I guarantee you, when Kentucky loses, they won't drop out the 25.
No, they'll drop 2 spots, just like Alabama dropped 4 spots after losing A&M.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Clemson dropped 16 spots. Losing on the road to a ranked team in double overtime. But, so that's 3. To me, it's insane. Arkansas is still ranked 7. Arkansas has 2 losses, same as Clemson.
Yep. So
their loss at Ole Miss, that was a toss-up, just like Clemson's toss-up with NC State. So those 2 games are equivalent. But if you look, all you have to do is look at the common opponent.
Yeah.
Common opponent for Auburn and Arkansas and Clemson is Georgia.
And
Georgia blew out both of them and barely beats Clemson, barely avoids overtime, and yet the AP pollsters in their brilliance decide that Arkansas is still a number 17 team and Clemson's number 27.
Man,
behind
it's how
Auburn.
good old
Behind Auburn,
SEC
too.
bias has
Yeah,
been
it's
around
ridiculous.
forever.
It's at its all-time high, and I think those AP voters have just they've been waiting. They've been biding their time, waiting for an opportunity to pounce and
here's
drop
it.
Clemson out of the
Paul
rankings.
Feinbaum's happy today. He's always okay. So
I don't know. I still think he's crying in his Wheaties over Alabama losing A&M.
Let's talk Oklahoma State and Texas. Let's go Big 12 now, okay? All right, and our future SEC opponent, Big Texas. Now, Texas, great season with Sarkisian, great running back, quarterback. Dad is an ex-Oklahoma guy.
Yep.
They looked the part up until last week. They were cruising right through Oklahoma, and Oklahoma
defense.
just came right back at the end with the backup quarterback, the kid out of Maryland, as a matter of fact. And they just tore them up.
Yeah, well,
I just saw Texas fold at home. At home, they folded.
Yeah, that Caleb Williams, I think he went to DeMatha High School there.
That was basketball school out in Maryland.
Soccer too. I mean, they've been. My high school and theirs used to have some top 10 soccer matchups back when I was in high school.
Caleb Williams was Clemson. He was down to Oklahoma and Clemson, but it was Oklahoma. I knew that from the get-go because I'll do a little bit of recruiting, guys, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, and I don't know if anybody remembers that or watched that QB1 show on Netflix with Spencer Rattler on there, and man,
nasty guy.
Yeah, my perception of him just watching that was that the kid was just cocky, selfish. Yeah, totally self-centered and entitled.
You saw that?
Not a teammate.
Did
you saw that after the long run by Caleb Williams. They showed him on sideline. What was he doing?
Sitting there.
He looked like he just lost a game. Yeah. I mean, he didn't even clap. Didn't even pretend. Most guys will pretend. Most guys are.
They're in the same group.
Yeah, most guys are. Let's be honest. The starter comes out and gets displaced by the backup. He's not happy, and he wants to be playing. But they'll at least pretend. When the backup does something good or the team scores, they'll at least.
You saw QB1 Rattler. You saw him show up on camera. So if you didn't see it, you saw it in the game, guys. Let me tell you something. He's a locker room cancer. That's the kind of guy you don't want on your football team. I just personally, I like guys that are all-in team guys, humble, and want to see their teammates win and do better. They want to see their logo win and not the jersey.
I think it'll be Caleb Williams from now on starting there, and it'll be interesting to see.
I can promise you the Oklahoma fan base is screaming for him because he's a bigger guy.
It'll be interesting to see if Rattler transfers because most people.
It will happen before the end of the season.
And folks, he was the preseason Heisman front runner, and most people just presume. And this was the third year in the program, so most people just assumed he was an NFL.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it, Trevor.
Yeah.
From what we saw, he's a transfer. It happens before the end of the season. If he doesn't start this weekend, I guarantee you Monday next week.
Yeah.
If Oklahoma wins,
because his NFL draft stock has gone.
He's a little guy.
Potential number one.
I'm gonna tell you something. If you watch Rattler's ball, it's awful. Yeah. He throws a really soft pass.
And he's little like Kyler Murray, but without the Kyler Murray.
Without the arm. Without the arm and the athleticism.
The freakish athleticism, exactly. But getting back to the Oklahoma State-Texas game.
Did we just go on a tirade about Oklahoma? I hear that, Sooner fans.
And Oklahoma, they still. I think they'll get better with Williams, but
their defense is still terrible.
Awful.
All you heard this year was.
And I said it all year. Yeah,
everybody
Kirk Street and guys like that.
Alex
Grinch. Yeah, I said I'll believe it when I see it in the playoff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they can't recruit.
If they somehow
defense,
they've squeaked out wins, man. They're like the opposite of Clemson. Like they're living right or something. I mean, they've gotten lucky time after time. I mean, they should have lost to Tulane at home. Yep. They should have. Nebraska. Nebraska had the ball with a chance to score in the last
minute. They couldn't score if you had them on open field.
Yeah, I mean, the game after game, Oklahoma squeaked these games out. It looked like they were going to get their doors blown off by Texas early when they were down 21 points, but somehow managed to pull that out. If they somehow make it to the playoff this year and run the table, they're going to get there. It's going to be like every other year with Oklahoma. They're going to get just completely humiliated in the playoff, I think. If they manage to make it, just like
you gotta have all four. You have to have that defense rolling, just like you have the offense. Because that's when you find out is when you get to the playoffs.
Exactly
where you measure up against everybody else. And I think that league. And everybody always gives Clemson a hard time about the ACC, but Clemson always walks in the playoff and wins.
Exactly. I mean, Clemson has six playoff wins. Oklahoma hasn't won one yet. Not one. And Alabama's won 8.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Georgia fans, you haven't won one either.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think people who are wanting some variety in the playoff, they may get their wish this year with already with Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State with losses, and Oklahoma just kind of.
I tell you, I think Alabama could lose again this year, guys.
They could.
They could. That offense was very.
Heck, this week they're playing at Mississippi State. Mike Leach, the same Mississippi State team that beat A&M. on the road the week before Bama lost to them. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I think Leach is going to pull it off and Bama loses 2 games in a row, but. Yeah, I mean they're vulnerable. They're more vulnerable this year than they have been.
So Oklahoma State's ranked 12th, and I was 5-0.
That's overrated. See, that's too high to me.
Barely beat Missouri State.
Barely beat Tulsa.
Barely beat Missouri State, folks.
And Tulsa at home.
And Tulsa
for the second year in a row against Tulsa.
Beat Boise State by 1 point.
That's what I'm saying.
Squeaked by. Got by Kansas State by 10 or 11 points, and got by Baylor by 10. This is a Texas win.
Yep.
That's a Texas win.
That's why I'm saying 12 is way too high for
the Texas team is really starting to come together. Sarkisian is a scary, scary play caller. If he gets the right guy in the slot, watch out.
And Oklahoma State's offense is not what we're used to under Gundy at all this season.
So we'll go ahead and call that one, and we'll both go with Texas on that. So what goes back, we've already done our preview, kind of what the Clemson game's all about, but I'm going to give you my score. 21-17 Clemson.
I'm close. I'm going to say 27-10.
Like that.
I think with Syracuse, like I said, that run game is scary. But like we talked about, they could be one-dimensional because I'm not sure if they have a real playmaker in the passing game, and so we're going to find that out because, like you said, I think Venables is going to load the box against them. He's going to force them to throw the ball.
I think he uses the bigger, heavier safety package too.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll see as much Nolan Turner. I think you'll see Makuba and Mickens in there and doing a lot of stuff with the heavies. But
I should make the caveat.
Now here's the thing: they have a 3 safety package they like to use too, and I like that when they bring that in. So you might see Nolan in there, and you might move Mickens down into the nickel spot.
And I should make the caveat that prediction is predicated on the assumption that there will be no more
injuries.
No more mash units on the sidelines because.
Well, we can't say that this way. We'll predicate that nobody shows up at kickoff and we don't get a notification from the SID office saying so and so are not playing or didn't travel.
Exactly.
We haven't got that yet. We'll get it on Friday morning usually. And they usually wait till right about game time before they'll send it to us. So we'll cross our fingers, folks. So listen, we are just finishing up here. I want to tell Trevor, thank you. We've done this little combination has worked out very well this year. Please go visit cutigers.com. Visit Trevor. Check out his game preview. We just released we'll release our game preview in the morning. We just released our basketball preview at Clemson Sports News. Be sure to hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. You can find me at Clem Sport News. You can find him at cutigers.com. And be sure to follow us. Hit us on our Facebook pages. Hit us up on our sites. And guys, watch the game on Friday. Cook your popcorn. Have a good day, and go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Holy shit.
Hour?
I don't know yet. It's got the battery thing came on. All right, let's get out of there.
Oh, it's 9:15.
Yeah, we've been here for a while.